This is a Defocus Media production.
Audio Jungle.
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Lyerly, resident optometry nerd.
And welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast, where we discuss the hottest topics, latest technology, eyewear, practice management, and more. So sit back, relax, and defocus.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so on tonight's episode, we're really excited because this is a topic that is near and dear to everything that I've been doing the last couple of years in optometry, but I know a lot of you guys are feeling the same way. We're in an interesting situation as 2021 closes out because people have money. They're eager to spend it. They're eager to get the things back in their life that they've been missing. But small businesses, not only in eye care, but across the world, are facing a lot of issues right now. There's staffing shortages. There's manufacturing and shipping delays that we're having to deal with. So trying to serve that need and deliver to our patients is extremely difficult in this time because many of these items are out of our control. Or are they? We have an expert guest on the show tonight, Dr. Deborah Weston, who's going to be sharing some of her strategies to get around these hurdles that we've been faced with in optometry. Because as a private practice owner, she's been there and she's doing that.
Hi, Jen. Hi, Daryl. Thank you so much for having me on. This is definitely a topic that I felt really comfortable coming on your podcast, your show to talk about because it's so everyday. It's not just one of those, some people experience it, some people don't. I think that, most of us in small business world are definitely feeling the pain, if you will, of supply chain issues. That's been in the news so much, dealing with patient care in a different manner that we're used to doing. So this is definitely something that I'm happy to have a nice long conversation with you guys about.
Well, before we get started, we always like to know who's hanging out with us. If you don't mind just sharing us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you do. Let's get to know Deborah. So if you don't mind breaking that down for us this evening. Absolutely.
So my name is Dr. Deborah Weston, and I am originally from Houston, Texas. I am a Longhorn. There we go. And I came to Florida for optometry school to Nova Southeastern in 1994. And ended up staying here partly because my lab partner and I decided to get married. So we moved to Weston, which is actually the same as our last name. And so we're Doctors Weston and Weston, which certainly makes it easy and confusing at times. And while my husband was working out of Pearl Vision about a mile away, I've been working at a private practice that I started with as an associate in 2001. Practice has actually been around the town of Weston since 1989. So long established patients. And then I took over the practice in 2008 as the sole owner. And then in 2018, when the prior doctor retired, an opportunity found itself for my husband to come and join my practice. And so now we are 50-50. I made him 50-50. I was not going to be the boss. And we've owned this practice now since 2018 and changed it from Town Center Optometry to Weston Town Center Optometry. Both location are our name, obviously. And we've been really just chugging along ever since and working on really continuing to build that family practice environment.
Well, so you guys, obviously you've been a practice owner, like you said, since 2008, and then 2018 brought your husband in. Being a practice owner always has its own challenges and rewards, but in this post-pandemic landscape, what has been some of the unexpected difficulties that you feel like you faced as an owner?
Well, I'll start with certainly patient care has been challenging. We were fortunate here in Florida to stay open during the hardcore lockdown days, April, May last year. Florida was a little bit more open, although we did see a vast slowdown in our business. We had to alter our practice schedule. There were days that I didn't see a patient. And it was very disconcerting at first because we have a very, very busy practice. I'm typically booked out 2 to 3 weeks in advance, which is always a nice thing to have. It's a hectic, but it's always good. And when that's gone, it's definitely scary. So then we really began to pick up business midsummer in 2020, making adjustments, but really the patient care, being able to maintain that really amicable, personal care, style of care, because my husband and I are both very personal people. We like to talk. I like to talk. And so it's something that we pride ourselves on as far as patient care. And that has been challenging, given the fact that we're not seeing each other's faces, especially new patients. So being able to provide good quality patient care in the COVID age has been challenging. Supply chain, being able to get contact lenses. In the earlier days of lockdown and everything, we had to actually completely change how we did our contact lens ordering because our distributor was overwhelmed and we weren't getting contacts for weeks at a time. So we switched over to all digital platforms. And so that absolutely made a big difference. One in particular that made a big difference was Marlowe through Alcon. We signed up with them in their early beta stage, late December 2019, and it couldn't have come at a better time because then, of course, just a few short months later, we were finding ourselves in a position where while we were open, nobody was comfortable coming in for obvious reasons. And being able to get contact lenses, glasses, things like that started to really become an issue. So with something like Marlowe, where we started being able to offer contact lens ordering online without us having to even be in the office if we decided to close for the day, made a huge difference with that patient care for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious, before we jump into, some of the strategies and things that you've done in supply chain, you mentioned going digital. But, in order to go digital, something clicked. So it had to be the patient, the consumer's behavior. In North Carolina, we were shut down. Like you said before, Florida was wide open.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, what was it like with the patient flow? Because in North Carolina, Jen, I'm pretty sure you can relate to this. A lot of my patients that were diabetics or glaucoma patients, I'm just seeing some of them right now. So
Sure.
we weren't open.
They
so
skipped an entire
we
year.
had a lot of train wrecks, and I'm curious to know, are you running into that problem now, or did you run into that problem, or being that you were wide open? I know it was slow business, but what did that look like? If you could just kind of walk us through that, because it was difficult here in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
To see some patients just go through some of the stuff that they experienced.
Yeah. So in April and May, when the city of Weston really took on, and Broward County, the county we're in, really took on a very proactive state of closing down restaurants and retail. Again, we were fortunate because we were considered essential workers, and but we knew patients didn't know we were open, period, because they assumed we were closed. A lot of patients assumed we were closed. Oh, how long? When did you open back up? No, we've never been closed. So, and then of course, just having a lot of patients decide, I can hang on to my glasses one more year. I don't need to I'm seeing okay with my contacts, or even if they were wearing their contacts. So that was definitely challenging. What made me realize that we needed to open ourselves up to these patients, whether it was through in-person or started doing telemedicine. So state of Florida allowed us to do telemedicine. I looked into our system that we use for our phone / patient communication. We have a 2-way messaging system where we can text patients, as well as be able to put out email blasts. And I put out an email blast, 2 of them. We are open. We are following strict protocols. We are wearing masks. We are sanitizing. We have 2 different boxes where we zap our frames. All the different things that we put up plexiglass in front of the optical, in front of the front desk. So I listed all the really important things that we were doing so patients could see that. And then the other email blast I sent out was, we are ordering all your contact lenses online. We are open. Feel free to give us a call. Or if you want to get set up with online ordering, if your contacts apply to that, like in Marlowe, for example, with the Alcon lenses, then give us a call, send us a 2-way text message. So that same day, we did probably over $4,000 in contact lens sales alone.
Oh, wow.
And that was like light bulb. That we are a digital office. We're paperless. We've been paperless since early 2019. It was a year and a half to get it that way. We use cloud-based, iPad-based eye exams. Our phoropters are digital. Our retinal imaging is digital. So it didn't make sense that we were still doing the old way of call in, place your order, have the contacts come in. We needed to streamline also the way how many patients were coming into the office just to pick up their contact lenses. So we started shipping them all for free. And a lot of the companies were offering that free shipping anyway, so that certainly helped, of course. But we were able to, put patients on a digital platform for their online ordering for their contacts. And that was, again, a light bulb. It made a big difference in our ability to connect with the patient, stay in communication with them. And all of a sudden, we started actually having patients call and make appointments. And the first thing they would say is, "You're the first person I am seeing in like 3, 4, 5 months. I didn't even go to my regular doctor. I didn't go to my hair salon. I didn't get my nails done. I came to get my eyes tested because I knew that you guys were doing all the strict protocols." And so again, that was that was almost like eye-opening to me. I don't know why, because it's not like we don't live in a digital age, but as optometrists, sometimes we get stuck in our old ways of doing things because we think it works until something comes around like a pandemic and completely changes how you have to operate.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I love that you saw that and you were able to pivot. And you're right. As optometrists, sometimes we're dinosaurs, right? We do the same thing over and over.
Right.
And we know that everyone wants technology, yet we're afraid of technology. Yet we preach technology when it comes to lens technology, but when it comes to our equipment, as far as, refractions and, how you deliver goods and things of that nature, we're scared.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you stepped out of the traditional box and got out there and really made it happen, because as you could tell, it's fruitful and it's rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. And as far as obviously the revenue aspect, especially when you're seeing a fraction of the patients that you're used to seeing, one of the things that we did going back to our schedules for about 2 weeks when we reopened for full, we went back to our normal 30 minutes. And after about 2 weeks, I was exhausted. I couldn't handle it because we're changing masks and changing gloves and wiping everything down. And I started realizing that the patients were almost suffering in terms of they're coming in and they're almost expecting us to be this almost therapy / do your eye exam all at the same time. So I spoke with my husband. I said, we've got to do something a little different. And so we expanded our exam times back to 45 minutes, which was kind of old school. But all of a sudden, one of the things we started noticing was patients were coming in and they were sitting and we were talking for 10, 15 minutes about nothing about their eyes and just really listening to what they had to say. People were out of connection with their families. And it was really very rewarding to listen to them and know that we were able to make that difference. And again, it was just changing how we did our appointment times. And it did push us back in our scheduling a little bit, but it almost didn't matter anymore. And then, so that was something that was really nice also, to be able to get back to that personal touch, both in person. And then also once they were done, they felt even more inclined to get a pair of glasses, their contact lenses, because they knew that we were there taking care of them, both in their eyes and kind of their mental well-being as well.
I think that's one of the real perks of being a practice owner, right? Like you could see how things were going, what your patients needed from you, and you could make that change. Where when you're an employed doctor, adjusting your schedule to fit the needs of your patients is a lot more difficult. So if people are looking at this and like, oh my gosh, being a practice owner sounds so stressful right now. Here's one of the rewards that we were talking about to really have that autonomy to do what you feel like is the most rewarding to you as a practitioner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's something that was always instilled in me from the beginning. From my dad, he's an optometrist as well. So I grew up with that. And that's certainly something that I've always felt compelled to pass on. And my husband also the same thing. He comes from a similar background of just very family oriented. And that's something that was really nice. And then getting that feedback from the patient when they are so thrilled that they got their contact lenses mailed to them, and what, you're telling me I don't have to come in and pick up my contacts? No, absolutely. We'll mail them to you, because we don't just have patients who are actually in the town of Weston. We have surrounding area. We have East Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Palm Beach. We've got patients from the Bahamas, the Caribbean islands. So this is something that we have been able to maintain even in the face of the craziness of slowing down, stopping, readjusting, being able to really pivot in almost a moment's notice. And that, as a business owner, you just have to do it. It is trial by fire, but when you see it work in your favor, it's really nice. It really is nice.
So we're gonna get into some research here next. So Vision Monday has run some recent surveys of optometrists and practice owners, and one of the biggest pain points for small businesses right now is staffing.
Yeah.
That recent survey that we were talking about found that 34% of practices say they would like to accommodate more patients, but they can't because of lack of staff. So I want to hear from you, Dr. Weston. How many staff right now do you currently have at your office? And is this less than you would typically employ?
Yes. So through the bulk of the early days of COVID, we were actually able to maintain our full staff. We had about 9 people. We were fortunate to get funding and things like that. We made changes to our office schedule as well as alternating staff. So we were able to keep every single person on staff. And that was really something that we worked really hard to do. And we know our staff appreciated that. Over the course of the year, we did lose a couple of staff members, either from moving to a different job or moving away. So we're actually currently at 6 staff members. So we are down in the optical, which is definitely probably the hardest thing. And we are down in the front desk, although I just brought on a part-time pre-optometry student. So yeah, so that's really nice to have her in there. But I'll tell you, one of the things about being understaffed, it's frustrating, especially because when we're understaffed and then someone says, I can't come in, I have a hangnail. So and then we did have some who got COVID, post-vaccination, thankfully, but we did have that COVID. You know what I'm talking about, Daryl, right?
Absolutely.
but in all seriousness, being short-staffed could have been a lot harder had we not shifted to a digital platform for virtually everything that we do. Something like Marlowe with Alcon is one of those platforms I go back to because it's so turnkey. Even when we bring on a new staff member, within a couple of days, they're already comfortable with using the platform so that we can pass that onto the patient. So the patients love when I tell them, okay, you're going to get these trial lenses. We're going to send you a link. You can click on the link if you're ready to order. And you don't even have to call us. You'll get your contacts ordered. You pay for them. They'll get shipped to you 2 to 3 days for free. And if you have any issues, you have a chat box that you can go on. So basically, we took out a considerable amount of staff time in the realm of contacts, checking them in, making sure they're done correctly. The distributor that we would get it from would put them randomly in boxes. So we would have to search through all the boxes. I mean, it could take easily 2 hours just to sort through them, identify them on the patient's chart, make sure they're okay, and then contact the patient. Then you've got revenue sitting there on your shelf waiting for that patient to come in and pick up and pay for their contacts because they didn't want to pay over the phone. And so, eliminating literally all of that made a huge difference, especially being understaffed, because it allows our staff, the optical, the front desk, to actually handle and take care of the patients who are standing in front of them. Mm-hmm. So that really made a big difference for us. And again, it was just the best timing that we were able to sign on to something like Marlowe before even the pandemic hit. So we already had a baseline of how to use the software, pass it on to the patients, and not have to worry if somebody called in sick and we were already shorthanded. These patients were being taken care of, basically like a concierge service, if you will. And we didn't have to worry about waiting for that patient to call in, place the order, take the payment over the phone, all of that. So that's been a really, really big help in the understaffing. And then even just trying to find people. I put out so many different ads in so many different places looking for people, and I'm willing to pay a reasonable, in the past when someone says, oh, I want to come in and I'll take this, and it was a low amount, I'd be like, oh, great, excellent, less money to have to pay out, and they're asking for it, so I'll give it to them. But now I'm saying, listen, I'm going to start you at a minimum of X, and we will train you. It's preferred that you have some medical front desk experience, even better ophthalmology, optometry. It was like crickets, absolute crickets. And that was frustrating as well, because then I'm trying to keep the current staff appeased by saying, I'm looking, I promise. I'm not trying to leave you hanging here, right? Because it's more and more stressful. And the upside is we're getting all these patients coming back. The ones who were due from 2019, who didn't come in 2020, some in 2018. We've got some people coming from 2014, decided to find their way back to us. So we're thankfully busy. I don't want to complain about that. But when you're understaffed, it's hard to really be able to keep a smile on your face, mask or no mask, and give that patient the best quality care, for sure.
Daryl, what's been your experience with staffing?
I mean, it's a hot ass mess.
Mm.
Just to be honest with you. I mean, Jen, we're in Raleigh, right? Raleigh, Durham, Cary, North Carolina, the Triangle. I ride around town. You see signs at McDonald's, $500 signing bonus.
I know.
At McDonald's.
Yes.
I mean, I don't
starting
think
at McDonald's is like 15, 16 right now. Yeah.
And I don't think it's a small business problem. I think it's a universal problem.
Sure.
And the thing that's sad about it is that, if people don't start stepping up and coming back to work for all size businesses, our current team members are going to burn out.
Yeah.
And because you now have to take what you have at hand and have them be cross-trained to do different positions, which is great, especially when everything comes back to normal. But there's only so much you can do. I mean, we're all human. We all get tired. We all get fatigued.
Yeah.
And, I think that, it's sad, but it's reality. And I think when you can utilize systems and processes with some of this newer technology that's out there, it can be life-changing. And I think, and I hope some of this technology will hang around. I get nervous about us accepting technology for the need right now, right? I have a lot of colleagues that in the early stages of COVID, they were doing telehealth, telemedicine, doing all this stuff. Now that they have patients coming back in the office, they kind of put that to the curb.
Sure.
I think that's a big mistake. I think we have to continue to, leverage some of this technology, some of these different ways of seeing patients to help elevate patient care, because the consumers or the patient's behaviors have changed. And we got to really keep that in mind. So it's going to be interesting to see how things turn out, but it's difficult. Small company, large company, we're all feeling it. And we all have to work together to push to get more people to come in so that we can help patients out there live their best lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I am very big in technology. I love technology, and I don't necessarily jump on every single new thing that's out there, but I really do embrace it. And I was asked a question, well, would you go back to doing X, Y, and Z the way you did it before? And the answer is a resounding no, absolutely not. Thankfully, we have a staff who embraces the technology as well. I've had in the past, in the earlier days when I had the practice and I wanted to switch everything over to paperless, I wanted to start doing electronic health records. And the pushback from the staff was it was really tough. And I was very disheartened. And so I did a few things on my own, but there was really no way to get the entire staff. And then when my husband came on board, and thankfully, because he does like technology, I do help him with things, but he does like technology and he's not afraid of it. And I asked the staff, what do you guys think about it? And they said, this is going to be great. And every time I embrace a new level of technology, while there's a learning curve for some things, thankfully they've been really receptive to it. And I think that that's going to be helpful in allowing them not to get totally burned out, so that when we hit Christmas time and we're in our busiest schedule and nobody's going home, when we were staying late nights and getting glasses made and contacts ordered and all that, it'll be helpful it will be helpful that we have this technology already. I still use the telehealth. I like it. I keep it limited as far as what I use it for. Obviously, your pink eyes and your styes and things like that. But I find that it's really helpful, and I really hope that that's something that we're allowed to continue to do in the state of Florida going forward. I certainly don't abuse it, but as far as maintaining the technology and going forward, there is absolutely no reason why I want to go back. I don't even think I know how to use a manual phoropter anymore. I took my mom to go get a cataract surgery evaluation with our local ophthalmologist that I work with. And I was sitting in the room, and they had the old school phoropter, the manual phoropter, the old school projector. And I was like, wow, I don't even know if I know how to use any of that, because we've embraced all this technology with digital everything. And I think that the patients come in and they go, even if they've been in the year before, over the last, because I've had the digital technology for refraction since 2014. So November 2014, I took it on. And even every year they're like, oh, wow, this is new. They hear me doing the clicks and everything. And they're like, this is, did you have this before? Yeah, but isn't it fun? Oh yeah, this is great. Yeah. And so when I do something like where I tell the patient, listen, you have full control of being able to order your contact lenses online now. This is great. And they're going to ship them to you, and you'll get a notification when you're due for your exam. And they come back and they say, this is great. I'm so glad that you have this technology, because who's not ordering from Amazon, right? Uber Eats. I did Instacart for my Publix grocery shopping. I still do occasionally Whole Foods, things like that. So we've really shifted more so over the pandemic, and kind of forcing some people who wouldn't have been technology lovers. They wouldn't have been comfortable with ordering their contact lenses online, setting up their information. Now they almost expect it, because it's about convenience. And even if maybe they pay a little bit more money for one thing or another, they're getting that convenience, and it's worth it for them. And the feedback is always, to me, the kicker. That's the one thing. When the patients, I know that we enjoy it. I know our staff enjoys it, and that's great. But it's when those patients come back in and they tell you, I love your technology. I love it. I can do an Optimap if I don't want to get dilated, and because I have to go back to work. This is a fabulous thing. And so that's absolutely something that I wouldn't go backwards on.
Yeah, and something that you touched on earlier, you had mentioned a fee or something like that, or paying, for Uber Eats and all that other stuff, how people consume. We really need to, study these different companies. Like, if you order from Uber Eats, your meal goes up like 50%. Mm-hmm. So if patients are used to paying a premium for, McDonald's or whatever fast food, they're going to pay a premium for products from your office. It deals with their eyes, the most precious thing that we have. So make sure that you really study the market, study competitors, study within your industry, outside of your industry, and realize that this is a great opportunity to make life easier for patients, but also make sure you're charging for these services that you're providing as well. Because you're going to have to pay for the product and the services on the back end, and you don't want to eat that. You want to make sure that you are able to figure out how to implement that into your price points as well.
Yeah.
Dr. Weston, I want to pick your brain a little bit, because, I think many private practices may have looked at technologies like Marla that your office is using, and had concerns about, well, I have this one digital tool that's going to work great for my patients that wear Alcon lenses, but then I have patients that wear other contact lenses. So is that going to make it confusing for my staff? Has there been any difficulty on having a tool that is only compatible with one lens manufacturer?
It would certainly be nice if it had it for everything, but I think it's a nice niche for this one contact lens company. We do all of our online ordering. So we order directly from the manufacturer now. Yeah. We have not gone back to distributor. And I asked, so technically it could seem like it's more work for your staff in order to have to order from, let's talk about, the top 4 brands that you're typically ordering from. And so when I asked them, now that people are coming back and people are more comfortable, and we're still wearing masks in our office and disinfecting and all that, so people still feel comfortable, do you guys want to go back to ordering through the distributor? Because with our with our practice management system, it's set up so that you can place the order, it goes through to the distributor, and then the order goes through. We don't have to do anything else. So at the end of the day, it comes out of the cart and it all goes into one place. And while that seemed like the most efficient way to do things pre-COVID, before COVID, it seems like the most inefficient way of doing things, because even though it was a platform, it ended up on the back end being wholly inefficient. So when we asked our staff, hey, what do you guys want to? No, we don't want to change. So they also, same as myself and my husband, when we said anything we want to go back to before we had the lockdown, before we had to make changes. And again, I think because the staff has been very receptive to increasing our digital platforms, utilizing Marlowe, things like that. And because most of it has been fairly turnkey, very user friendly. When I look at something like Marlowe and I bring in a new staff member, like I did this young woman who's a pre-optometry, granted, she's got to be smart. She's going to be going to optometry school, but she took one look at it and within a few moments had the ability to do that. So that's been something that's been really helpful. So I encourage any doctor who's out there who's thinking that their old way was the better way, reevaluate that, because even if it's a $6 shipping fee from one of the companies, because maybe the patient's only ordering 2 boxes, I don't charge that and I know you said, Daryl, charge for your services. But the thing is that for something as small like that, and it doesn't happen too often because we oftentimes, I just saw that comment. That was funny. I put that on my charts. When was your last eye exam? BC. But it's something as small like that. So certainly we can encourage patients to do larger volume, rebates, things like that. But it's that little personal touch that I can provide for the patient, because maybe we still have some patients who are working from home and we still have patients who are not vaccinated. Yeah. And those people are vaccinated, but they're being really careful by staying at home, not going anywhere. And so for them, that's their best choice, and that's fine. So again, being able to maintain the online ordering status for the contact lenses, you have to have a staff that's willing, but you as the doctor have to say to your staff, this is going to be great. Mm-hmm. It's always a learning curve in the beginning, but the learning curve is small, and embrace it, because your patients are absolutely going to love it. And you know what? We've increased our year supply orders. You know, the rebates are always nice and everything, but we've increased our year supply orders because the patients know that they're going to get it shipped to their house, and they have that convenience. If they're ordering through Marlowe and they don't want their year supply, they're going to get a reminder in 45 days. You can still get your rebate for your year supply if you want to. But it's all these little things that the companies allow us, like Marlowe, Alcon, allow us to keep our communication with the patients, regardless if they want to come in or not.
I'm such a believer in this, and obviously, when the patient's in the office, when a staff member is prominent, there's a certain percentage of a population who'll never feel like they're in charge of making that decision, and then they're not comfortable with it. But you give that same person everything available to them online, they probably order the year because it's their decision, it's their choice. They didn't feel like anyone was talking them into anything. And exactly. I think as we see generations continue to age up, that feeling of being in control and you push the button and you make the decision is where we're going to have to move to in many levels of the care that we're providing, I think. So already
absolutely. Technology, you hit the nail on the head. And so you look at, like, if you have an iPhone, for example, some of the latest updates have been the privacy, and you get to pick which app tracks you to do what. And so that's something that we need to be able to provide for our patients as well, going into an online presence as far as the contact lens ordering, for example, and letting them know that your information is safe. You have that control over it. With Marlowe, they now have a QR code. So I just have the patient in the office snap the QR code. It takes them straight to the Marlowe site. They enter the information. So prior to the QR code, we would enter in the information either in the office for the patient, or they had an iPad. Patient could put their information, but it was a little clunky, admittedly, just because of time. Because sometimes people are like, I need to check out. I need to pay my copay. need to get going. I want to order my contacts. Let's go. Come on, go. I got to go. I've got 5 other appointments and I got to pick up my kid from soccer practice. So you need to be able to streamline that. So with Marlowe, with their QR code, I give it to the patient right there in the office. I tell them either you can fill it out right here and now if you've got the time. If that way, if you have any questions, great. If not, when you get home, fill it out. It gives them an opportunity to put in what phone number, what email. They know they're entering that information themselves. And that level of security makes a big difference. And when they feel like they're secure with their online ordering, again, I really do believe that it does perpetuate spending more money, which at the end of the day, when you're a small business, you've got to do that. We don't have the backing of a big corporation like a McDonald's to put out a sandwich board that says, come on in. We're going to pay you $500 for walking in the door. It doesn't matter that you've never eaten a hamburger your entire life. We, as private practitioners, it's challenging. Listen, there are some practices out there that might be able to do that. If you've got a Fifth Avenue practice, that's great. But for most of us, we still have to be really mindful of our expenses, especially right now with everything costing more money. Well, that didn't cost that last year. Well, yeah. Well, now it's going to take about an extra 4 weeks before you can get that frame coming over from Italy. And it's going to cost twice as much. And so that's something that is very challenging. So again, going back, putting the control in the patient's hands and letting them see that they have that control, I tend to see that it yields really great revenues. Your ROI is a nice one on that one.
Yeah, I love it. And, the QR code, that's a nice touch. That really adds a little bit more to the user experience. And while we've been chatting, I actually went to the website just to see what it looks like. The website is fantastic. The colors are nice and vivid. It's easy to navigate. It's up to date. It's modern. It's hip. It has a good vibe to it. So kudos to them for really creating something that's attractive to the eye. And the mobile piece looks great as well. So they're really doing a great job when it comes to making that experience pretty nice. I mean, even when you go to the patient's place, it says effortless, transparent, and convenient. They're really trying to make it so
But
easy.
it is, though. And it is absolutely something that you could say, oh, well, it says all these things and it purports to do all these things. And some companies do follow on their word on those things. I believe that Marlowe absolutely does deliver on that. And while every other company allows us to order for the most part online, I find that the platform for Marlowe is really exceptional. It's a unique one. And it has allowed us to incorporate patients even that weren't even from our office. A great example is during lockdown time, I received a text message from a friend of a friend. She wasn't a patient of mine. She says, hey, I heard you guys are open and I wanted to know if I can order my contact lenses from you. I can see if I can get my prescription. She happened to be wearing an Alcon brand lens. And I said, okay, no problem. We're going to send you a link and you can start ordering your contact lenses. So fast forward. Now people are starting to come out more in Florida, things like that. And she, her husband, and her son are all patients of ours. They weren't patients before. Again, friend of friend through acquaintances. And then we were able to help out a friend of ours who lives in Atlanta. And their son's eye doctor had closed down. And he also was wearing an Alcon lens. And he texted my husband. And so he was able to send us the prescription. We put it in the system and we sent a link and again, able to get so it has allowed us to connect with people who we normally wouldn't have necessarily seen. City of Weston is a very saturated optometry. We are 65,000, 70,000 people now, established in 1989. We have 8 optometrists and 4 or 5 ophthalmology offices. Wow. 2 of the ophthalmology offices are literally on the same floor in the same building. So it's a very saturated area. So being able to take our practice to that next level in terms of that patient care has made a big difference. I mean, we had patients who were coming to see us because, again, their office was closed. We were able to stay open. So that's a key right there. But because we were able to continue providing for them a digital service that they couldn't have gotten necessarily at their previous doctor's office. And on top of that, they now don't have to necessarily worry about schlepping all the way between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. I mean, that's with traffic, it could take you, 2-3 hours.
I want to dig in a little bit about the overall supply chain issues, because we've been talking about some of the contact lens, but this is something that's affecting us basically at every step of the way in the eye care office. In that same Vision Monday survey we were talking about earlier, 67% of doctors say supply chain is affecting their practice right now. We're seeing it in my specialty contact lens orders. Used to take 2 weeks to ship in. Now it's like 3. I have 90-day warranty though still, but every time I order one, I've lost another week. So I used to be able to get 3 or 4 lenses for a patient before I needed to finalize. Now we're down to 2 to 3.
Yeah.
That's a meaningful difference in my patient's happiness and outcomes. So how are we? Also just got an email the other day from Imprimis, who I use for low dose atropine and some of the different eye drops that we prescribe for patients. They are saying expect 4 weeks shipping. Heads up. So if I want to start a patient on low dose atropine because they have progressive myopia, I'm going to hit prescribe. They may not get it for a month. That totally affects how I'm scheduling them for follow-ups and my care regimen. So any advice or tips for doctors navigating supply chain across kind of all aspects of the office?
Well, definitely being first and foremost, you've got to be open. You have to be open. It's tough when if you've been practicing for a long enough time, and for the newbies out there who haven't really gained a sense of routine and structure, it maybe is a little easier but I've been practicing for over 20 years. I'm used to doing certain things a certain way in terms of product. I like what I like because I know it gives me those results. And from contact lens solutions, I mean, how do I fit a new patient in contact lenses if I've got no contact lens solution to give them? Right. So what I'm doing, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm buying it myself whenever, and utilizing that whenever possible. But that's frustrating. Being able to tell patients about I do specialty fit contacts as well for corneal issues and things like that. And I have to tell the patients, listen, well, but before I got it in a week, yes, I understand that. But the materials, the raw materials, the staffing, I mean, just the spectacle lab alone, we've gone back to a fairly full schedule, but I feel like our local labs have continued to keep a very, very base skeleton crew. So we're telling patients, listen, it's better than it was before, because before we were telling patients, listen, it could be 4 to 6 weeks before you get your glasses. And they're like, what? Yeah. It's out of my hands. They don't even physically have the blanks, the lenses to surface and cut. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Or, for the manufacturers that pull from overseas, from China, from Japan, from Italy, was really, really bad. So ultimately, starting to look at ways that you can work around things, make some changes where they are reasonable, obviously. I mean, if you've got a specialty fit contact lens and you just got to the pit, you got to be patient. Yeah. But as far as contacts, as far as solutions, as far as glasses, changing things, looking at ways to make those adjustments, first of all, we have to embrace it. We have to get our staff to embrace it. And if we get our staff to embrace it, since there's the ones who have as much interaction with our patients as we do, is to just really reassure them. This is all going to come to fruition, but we're going to have to make this change this time around. And when things come back to normal, we can look to see if we need to go back the other way, or maybe you're happy now. So that's been certainly challenging. And I think really just tempering the expectations for your patients. People are expecting things to come to them. I mean, with Amazon, you could get it the same day sometimes if you have Prime account. And that's great, but we don't have the luxury of having any of our products, for the most part, being able to deliver within a moment's notice. So I think tempering the expectations for the patients is so important, and reminding them that if we can order things online, again, going back to the contacts, for example, just because it's probably the easiest example, is to let them know, listen, let's get you on this particular platform, like a Marlowe, so we can make sure you get your contact lenses. Sometimes you might have to make a temporary change in their contact lens brand, because that particular brand is coming in as much faster. It's not on back order, those types of things.
Yeah. For me, I'm not a private practice owner. I work for a large organization. And the one thing that I love about my organization is that I don't have to have that headache.
Yeah,
you
this is
know,
true.
so we have, at my eye doctor, we have, divisions that handle all this stuff. So when we're talking about supply chain, this, that, and the third, it allows me to be able to just sit in that exam room, prescribe from the chair, find those solutions, and know that my team that supports us on the back end is going to take care of all of those problems. Do we run into supply chain issues? I'm pretty sure we do. I don't know what all they are because I don't get to see it,
Yeah.
simply because I'm in that exam lane doing things with the patients. But that is one perk, of being a part of a large organization, that you have teams that are devoted solely to that, to make sure that they keep the process going like easily and smoothly as well.
Yeah, it can be challenging for in any situation, but when when the buck stops with you, right? There's nobody to look and say, let me talk to the boss.
I don't want that headache. I don't want that headache.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, though, it's challenging. And I grew up with my dad owning a private practice. And so I think the thing that I took from him was living in the community in the suburbs of Houston, in a smaller part of Houston, was going into a grocery store, into a restaurant, and seeing those patients say, "Oh, hey, doctor, how are you? Good to see you," whatever. And I always thought that's really cool. That's really cool that he has embedded himself and become such a part of the community and that was something that was always important to me. I did work in optical, commercial optical for about a year and a half when I got out of optometry school. And then I worked at a laser center actually for about a year and a half back in 2000. That was the job I had right before I started at the private practice. And that was challenging back in 2001, basic 2001. So but I always knew I was going to be in private practice because I always knew that having that connection with my patients, both in the exam room and out in the community, was something that was important to me, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's sometimes I see patients when I'm in the grocery store at the deli and I'm like taking my cart and going, "I'll see you later, bye."
Like I know that
feeling. Don't worry.
I know that feeling quite a bit.
Dr. Weston, can you take a look at my eye? I'm like, I'm just trying to get some turkey here, man.
My patients, they take it a step further. Not only do they find me in the grocery stores, which I don't mind. I mean, I'm like you. I like to be in a community.
Sure.
I shake hands. I kiss babies. Love that. That's all me. It's right up my alley. Where I live, I'm like, literally, I could walk to my office, right?
Nice.
But I could walk to Walmart. I could walk to Target. I could walk to Harris Teeter. Whatever I need is within a mile from my house. So I'm heavy in my community. But my patients take it to the next level. I've had patients contact me on LinkedIn, Instagram, find my personal email, my cell phone. I welcome it all, but like they'll figure out a way. But that shows who you are as a doctor. That shows how much of a relationship that you have. And that's what patients are looking for. They want someone that they can connect with, that they feel like is just like them, but someone that's going to really take their eye care to the next level. So I'm with you 100% in regards to that.
Yeah, I think you can do that regardless if you're in commercial or you're in, because sometimes I have patients come and say, "Oh, well, I had an exam, but it was, it was at Costco, so it wasn't with a real doctor." And I'm like, no, it's a real doctor.
We're all doctors.
They had to go to optometry school. They had to get a license. They had to practice their board, get a Florida board license and all of those things. I said, they're a real doctor. I said, but the difference, what I remind them why they're coming to me, and my exams are going to be more expensive than a Costco exam.
Right.
Why my contact lens fittings and my evaluations are more expensive than a Costco exam. Why my contact lenses and glasses are more expensive. Why? Because you get me and you get the care and you get the time. We don't use text for working up. The only thing that we use our optical staff is to do autorefraction, and they'll do a visual field topography. Although my husband does all of his optomaps because in his previous practice, it was him and he had an assistant who answered the phone. So he's just used to doing that and having that connection with the patient. I will do the optomap if I've got time. So for the most part, though, the patient comes in and I'm taking the history. I'm having the conversation with them. I'm dilating their pupils. I'm refracting them. I'm doing everything that I can from start to finish, because while it's a little more time consuming, I wouldn't have it any other way. And again, I like to provide a very unofficial, if needed, therapy session. I tell them, I said, listen, you see those licenses on the wall. They say BA in biology and a DO, our doctorate in optometry. I'm not a licensed therapist, but feel free, if this is the time that you need to just talk about what's going on in your life, we've got an extra 15 minutes or so. Sometimes we'll get 20 minutes in. I'm like, I think we might actually have to do your eye exam. And we get patients who come back to us, their insurance, we don't take their insurance anymore, or they've moved out of the state of Florida. They still come back and get their eyes checked. I'm like, you really need to find someone in Michigan. That would probably be helpful. We have a lot of people who move up to North Carolina from Florida. You guys have probably been invaded by Floridians.
Actually. Oh yeah.
I've seen a lot
Asheville for sure. I know a lot of, but that whole area, everybody's moving to North Carolina because it's the place to be.
Yeah.
And so I'll say, you got to have a doctor. See, now I know who I'm sending him to, which is fabulous. This is great.
It's funny that you mentioned that about North Carolina. Asheville is a hot spot. Wilmington's a hot spot. Raleigh is a hot spot. Mm-hmm. Where I live, there are 3 55 plus communities around here. I think one is the largest in North Carolina. They built another one, and now they just built this nice condo. So yeah, everyone's coming here now. This is the new place to retire. Hey, thank you. We have a question here. We have a question here for you. I think it's a great question. This is from our colleague Bill Gerber, who does an amazing job. If you ever need your office outfitted, you need to holler at this young man. He can make your office look like it's a part of Hollywood. I mean, he can really make it look amazing. But the main question is, have you seen any online eyewear selling platforms that are easy to implement and profitable for independents? I know that you're all about, that digital office setting. What are you doing when it comes to, selling eyewear online and things of that nature?
All right. Well, my dinosaur self is going to come out. It's going to come out. Great question. And I would say that I listen, it's true. Now, I did try to get onto something like My Frame Gallery and set up a situation where the patients can go on, but I felt it was a very clunky platform. For us, it may work for some people. They may have figured out how to use it better than I did. And so I kind of gave up on it, probably prematurely. There are, I'm sure, a way to be able to do that and advertise there's some things that I am so innovative in and on top of for technology, and even more so now with incorporating all of our online ordering and things like that, that doing the glasses, I think is still something that a little bit of a dinosaur. I want that person to come in. I want them to get fit with glasses, take their picture, take a selfie, send it to their friend, things like that. So I think I still want to differentiate ourselves from other online ordering, where maybe they send you the frames, you try on 5 frames, and then you pick which one and you send it back. I just don't feel that there's a real personal aspect to that. I don't think you need to be I think you can still be personal with your contact lens ordering because of the fact that it is an immense convenience for your patients. It's a source of efficiency for your staff and your office. So I think in that regard, it plays out beautifully. For me personally, going with online ordering, even if it's from my office, I haven't gotten there yet. Truth be told, yeah, I still like that in-person touch.
Dr. Weston, I'm all about technology if it's good. I'm not going to just use it because it's new or because it seems like that's what's coming next. It's got to actually be useful. And that's why you guys, Daryl and I, we've had conversations about telehealth before. I find it only useful in a very small percentage of situations. It's not useful to do actual eye exams. Obviously, it's not useful to do a true contact lens troubleshoot because you can't check someone's vision and over refract. So that's why you see doctors moving away from telemedicine, because it can only do a 0.000% part of your day of what you're actually doing in patient care. But as technology gets better, as we can do more things remotely, then that conversation will switch over. And I think that's true of, eventually incorporating online galleries with our frame sales. Right now, you would then be relegated to doing a crappy job with glasses because that's what everybody who's selling glasses online at the end of the day is kind of doing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, if you care about what you're doing with glasses, that's not the direction you're going right now because a good technology platform does not exist.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you can probably, if you have a website, you can incorporate which frames. You can maybe have them go to the retail side of the website so they can start looking at frames and get an idea of maybe a style they like. They can come in requesting things like that. Ultimately, where optometry has gone and is trying to, by some big box places as far as online ordering for contacts or glasses for that matter, is to take us out of the equation. And what we are is that we're the personal connection.
Right.
You go to your primary care doctor and you wait 30 minutes, an hour to see the doctor. You get in, you wait another 20 minutes. The nurse comes in, does your vitals. Maybe you see the doctor, you see the PA, it doesn't matter. But the doctor's in for like 5 minutes. Okay, here's your script and I'll see you in 6 months. But I have questions. I want to have time with you. That doesn't exist anymore. People go to urgent care because they don't have time to go to a primary care doctor or emergency room for that matter. But I think that it's still something that says a lot about our profession if we can hold on. When I say I'm a dinosaur in terms of that, right? Okay, so that's one area. But where I don't want to be a dinosaur is that doctor who welcomes the patients in, mask or no mask at this point in time, although in our office it's all mask. But hopefully down the road we can see each other's faces again. But it's really being able to provide that personal touch. And I think we're kind of the last bastion of that. You just don't get that with really almost any other medical profession these days. And if you do, you're certainly very lucky. But I think optometry still has an opportunity to present itself here into really being able to provide that quality care for your patient, whether it's in the chair. It's if you're doing a telehealth conversation, at least just to sometimes you have to see the patient, right? They want to talk about something. They want to talk through it. They have a subconscious and they're freaked out about it. Okay, so you can have a quick, that doesn't need chair time. Okay, so that helps there. But the fact that they know that they can come to you. I mean, I've got patients who will ask me about other medical questions. And if I'm knowledgeable about it, I will then assist, but then direct them otherwise. Your diabetic patients, things like that. We're sometimes the person who gives them all their information.
Yeah.
They don't get it from their regular doctors. And so I hope that we maintain that. And I think that if more doctors, younger, almost middle age right here next week. 50, baby. Listen, I'm blessed. I'll take it. But younger like you guys, older like my dad, who still likes to see patients in his 70s. If we can keep moving forward in the technology, all right, maybe you don't have to be a completely paperless office, but provide a service of convenience for your patients. Be more concierge-like, right? If you're more concierge-like, now it can backfire you. I mean, you can certainly have patients who I expect, and when you can't deliver because of this one-time supply chain issue, right? Totally out of your hands. The lab broke the frame. It's out of your hands. Okay, it's an insurance pair of glasses with the insurance lab. There's nothing you can do about it, even though it seems as if you should be able to. But I think that if we can provide that personal concierge type of service for our patients, get them their contacts ordered online, put them on a Marlowe if they're an Alcon lens, be able to be accessible to them within reason. I think that that's something that says a lot for those of us who can maintain that level of care and not try to spit them out every 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think the main thing is, you have to know the demographic that you serve. Once you understand who your demographic is, then you have to understand their behaviors. Yeah. Once you understand their behaviors, then you can figure out what type of technology, what type of service that you can present to your patient base. And then at that point, you're going to be able to, rock and roll and just be able to increase that bottom line because you're going to create loyalty and make it easier for the patients. Deborah, this has been fantastic. I've learned so much from you. I've had some people hit me up while we've been online asking about Marlowe. Dr. Blue earlier said she's going to go check out Marlowe and look into it for her practice. So I'm excited to learn more about that myself. I am curious, being that you are so knowledgeable, where are you getting all this knowledge from? I mean, what forums, what resources are you using to always stay abreast of the latest and greatest technology that's out there to implement into your practice?
Well, defocus media, certainly.
Look, hey, Deborah, I'm gonna give you a virtual high five on that one. All right, damn, that's what I'm talking about.
I used to be a big magazine reader, a review of optometry, contact lens spectrum, a review of optometry business, the management, women in optometry, that they slip in the back of review of optometry. It should be in the front. I mean, having time to read articles is challenging, but I have the digital versions, right? So I'm constantly getting these emails in, and I pick and choose which ones I find are going to be relevant. And then I also have friends of mine that are colleagues, and just kind of talking to them and seeing where they're at. And some of them are staying in the things work this way for me. And I try to tell them, hey, listen, you should give it a try. Check, like the doctor was like, I'm going to try out Marlowe. It's totally worth it. When you know that you can keep those patients coming back for more because they need you, they want you, they have to have you because you are their provider, their world for their eyes. That makes a huge difference. So I try to, get feelers from other doctors in the community. Like I said, I read the articles online, and I'm just trying to stay abreast of what's the latest, what I can fit into my practice, what I can incorporate that's within reason. There's certain pieces of equipment that I have not yet purchased because either I don't have the physical space for it. We're a relatively small practice, physical space wise, but also just I don't want to take on too much, right? I don't want to overwhelm. So I would definitely say if you are incorporating technology into your practice, start with one aspect.
Yeah.
When we went paperless, that was our world. Everybody was scanning charts in between patients, coming in early to do it, staying later to do it. During their lunch hour, they're sitting there eating, their hamburger and scanning in. So we focused on one area, and then we were able to move on to another area. And, I got my husband over from paper charts over to all digital. It's something that if you have to embrace it and understand it's a challenge, it's an expense. But once you have it, I wouldn't go back to a paper chart to save my life.
Oh, yeah.
When we've had the electricity go out because of, let's say, a tropical storm or something like that coming along, you guys know that in North Carolina for sure. But when you have that happen and all your equipment goes out, and all of a sudden now I'm having to take a pen and paper, I don't even know how to use a pen anymore. I'm like, what am I supposed to write? I don't even have a chart that I could write in. So I think it's a matter of just really taking it one step at a time. If you're ready to jump both feet in, go right for it. I am definitely someone who's been living it, experiencing it, enjoying it, and passing it on to my patients. So I am absolutely willing to, if anyone wants to, talk to me about it, and I can let them know the trials and tribulations, but we got on the other side of it, and it's so worth it.
Awesome. Well, let's make that happen. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach out to you? Do you have an email, social media, LinkedIn? What's the best contact?
So I have Instagram, which is iDoc. 06 EYEDOC 06. I don't do Facebook anymore. I had to eliminate some social media. But my email, you can use my email, which is WTCoptometry at gmail.com. So that's Weston Town Center Optometry at gmail.com. Feel free. I look at my email probably more than I should on a regular basis. And I love answering. I love helping out because guess what? That person's going to help me with something that I didn't know. Maybe I've got somebody who's going to tell me how, like Gerber, who's going to tell me how I can incorporate getting these glasses online for these patients. And now I'm providing another service, and I've shed my dinosaur skin.
There you go.
That's true. I would have thought, Gary, he may have something good. I don't know. So, that's probably a podcast we need to do because if anyone has a good option, then it's him.
For sure. I read his articles.
Well, this has been great. Again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. We always like to learn. We love this new technology, this Marlowe platform. Definitely going to check it out.
Definitely.
Thank you again. It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover, the lovely opto nerd, Dr. Jennifer Liley, And thank you again. Stay healthy, positive, blessed. Talk to you next time. Peace.
Bye.
All right, colleagues, and it's a wrap. Thank you dearly for hanging out with the D-Focus Media team. We hope truly something resonated with you. And if it did, be sure to give us 5 stars. And make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, you named it. And our handle is at D-Focus Media on all platforms. And until next time, be sure to keep it 2020. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.